Batman versus the Joker, Gotham City, New Jersey, April 2000. A little bit, maybe before a month or after a month, after Batman, aka Bruce Wayne, takes in young circus acrobat turned orphan Dick Grayson and made him into his new sidekick, Robin, the Boy Wonder. Well, the two are going to face one of their greatest challenges, and Batman's going to meet his greatest foe. Somewhere in a Gotham City dock. It was a typical spring night. It was warmer, it was quiet, and the police were there responding to a 911 call. They have surrounded a dockside warehouse after they received a call that someone had found a bunch of bodies inside. Well, Lieutenant Gordon pulls up in his squad car and he steps out. He questions a young police officer and says, "All right, Johansson, what's going on?" Johansson says, "Well, Lieutenant, we just responding to a call about some dead bodies found inside this dockside warehouse, but you really need to go in there and see for yourself, sir. The guys are kind of frightened and they're kind of sick, too. We've never seen anything like this. Even the more seasoned cops are freaking out from what they're seeing." Lieutenant Gordon's like, "Okay, I'll go in there. Let me see." Well, Lieutenant Gordon walked in through the open loading bay door. He saw the horrific sight. He didn't know how many bodies were in there yet, but it was a mountain load of bodies. And they all had one thing in common. They all had giant, hideous grins on their face. A lot of them were in different states of decomposition, showing that they were in there for a while some of the other bodies were still kind of fresh. Lieutenant Gordon grabs his handkerchief and puts it over his mouth, trying to contain his vomit. He was able to do it, but in his 14 years as a cop for the GCPD, he's never seen anything like this. Who did this? Who are all these people? There was a big mess ahead of them to try to figure out these people's identity. Well, he tells the police to clear the area and to wait for the coroner's van to come in. Well, after he cleared the area, two figures land on the ground as they jump from the higher levels of the warehouse. It was none other than Batman and his new partner in the crusade against crime, Robin. The two landed and stood there staring at the lieutenant. Gordon says, "Oh, thank God you came. I don't know what's going on here. Go do your thing and get the hell out of here," said Gordon to Batman and Robin. Batman says to Lieutenant Gordon,
"I already did my thing. I got hair samples, skin samples, and blood samples. I'll be going to the Batcave and I'm going to analyze this on the Bat computer. I'll let you know what I find. Let me tell you one thing, Lieutenant. Whoever this person is that did this, he's just getting started."
Well, 2 nights later, it was a typical night in Gotham City, as people were sitting down watching TV, evening shows, maybe the evening news. Well, everyone was going to have a rather unhappy night, as their news and TV show was interrupted, as someone had interfered with the transmission of the television waves. Then everything was back to normal, but it was not what the people were watching in their homes. It was something on the TV that said, "The Joker predicts." And then it cut to a man in a makeshift news studio. His face was covered in shadow, but he was wearing a long purple trench coat sitting at a desk, and he says,
"Good evening, Gotham City. The Joker here, and I'm making a prediction for tonight. Henry Claridge, the millionaire industrialist and the owner of the Claridge Diamond, will die tonight, and his diamond will be stolen. The Joker has spoken."
Soon after the mysterious figure made his prediction on TV, everything went back to its normally scheduled programming. One elderly couple that were watching the evening news when it got interrupted by the Joker were shocked and curious. The old woman says, "Rob, Who was that crazy individual on the TV? The old man says, I don't know, dear. I don't know. I don't know why we did not move to Florida. There's so many wackos in this city now. It's no longer safe to leave the house. Thank God for that costume vigilante out there. Well, later on that night, the police were all inside the Claridge mansion. Henry Claridge was angry. He was screaming at Lieutenant O'Hara, and he says, God damn it, I want an explanation, O'Hara. Who's this madman that made a threat against me, and why do I need you guys here? You know the kind of man I am? I always get death threats. I just shrug it off. Well, Lieutenant O'Hara says to the wealthy businessman, well, sir, we have to look up on all these threats. I mean, look, the man hacked the TV airwaves and made a threat on your life, so that really constitutes us being here, sir. Well, the hours went on. As it was getting closer and closer to midnight, the police had the entire Claridge mansion locked down. There were police officers outside and police officers inside, with Lieutenant O'Hara and several of his best men with him, keeping a guard on Claridge and his diamond in Claridge's study inside his mansion. Well, suddenly, midnight. The grandfather clock in the study chimes its chime, it's signaling midnight. Claridge looks at the grandfather clock and he says, look, it's midnight and I'm still alive. See, this crazy fella on the television was just another empty threat. This always happens to me. Suddenly, it started to happen. Claridge began to laugh because he was relieved, but his laughter began to get uncontrollable. Well, Claridge was laughing, either from relief or from something else. His laughing was getting more and more uncontrollable. He couldn't stop laughing. O'Hara looked at him, thinking he snapped from the stress. But soon, Claridge's skin started to turn pale, and he began getting a big grin on his face, and he was beginning to gasp for air. Then Claridge stops and falls to the ground in his study. Lieutenant O'Hara saw that and said, "Oh no, saints preserve us!" Well, Claridge was dead. He had a big grin on his face. His skin was discolored. How? How did he die? How did this joker get to him? Then O'Hara gets on his radio and it says, "All men, come into the study now." And then after he called the men, he says, "HQ, send the ambulance here. Claridge is dead." Well, afterwards, he runs to the safe behind a painting of Claridge. He pulls the painting down and opens the safe. O'Hara pulls out the Claridge diamond, a beautifully cut giant diamond in Harry Claridge's possession. Well, the other policemen run inside, and they were like, "Lieutenant O'Hara, what happened?" Lieutenant O'Hara turns around and says to one of his officers, I don't know how this happened. How did this man die? How did Joker get to him?" Well, another officer says, "Lieutenant, at least the diamond is safe." Then O'Hara lets out a big bombshell. "No, Lottie, this is not a real diamond. It's a perfectly good imitation. It's glass." O'Hara slams the fake diamond to the ground and it shatters. Well, the police officers in the room gasp with shock, and Lieutenant O'Hara does the sign of the cross and grabs his St. Jude pendant around his neck and says, "Oh, saints preserve us." Meanwhile, in his hideout, not too far away from the scene of the crime, a dark figure arrives to it. It was a mess. Part of the area looked like a chemistry lab with beakers and tubes and little Bunsen burners, and the other half looked like a TV studio with the desk, the background, and the camera, and several computer equipment and special stuff to hack TV signals. Well, the figure was holding the Claridge diamond with his purple gloved hand. He was wearing a long purple trench coat. His face was chalk white, his hair was seaweed green, and his lips were rouge red. It was the Joker. He had a gleeful smile on his face of a job well done, and he says to himself aloud,
Idiotic fools, I got to him by spiking his blood pressure medication with my slow-acting Smilex agent. Now to make my next prediction with Jay Wild and the Ronkers Ruby.
Well, the next evening, it was a repeat of the same thing. The people were settling down to watch their news and evening shows when the transmission was interrupted again. The Joker comes on the TV, this time his face still cladded in shadow, and makes another prediction.
Good evening, Gotham. It is 6 p.m. And in 3 hours, Jay Wild will be dead and the Ronkers Ruby will be stolen. The Joker has spoken.
Well, the police were at Jay Wild's house, and they had tight security around, outside and inside. Now they had a human cordon around Jay Wild. The Joker was not going to get to him. They were sure of that. Well, little did they know that the Joker was a very masterful criminal. Well, as 9 o'clock rang, Jay Wild said, 9 o'clock. Dude, 9 o'clock. Fellas, I'm still alive. I knew that Joker was lying. I knew that Joker was... Suddenly, Jay Wild began laughing maniacally. O'Hara was like, no, no! Suddenly, another problem popped up for the police. As Jay Wild was laughing maniacally to death, suddenly there was a loud hiss of gas coming from the armor suit. Within seconds, some sort of gas cloud had covered the entire study, and all the policemen began choking and gagging. Then they all fell down. They were not dead, they were just merely unconscious. Well, after the gas spraying stopped, the armor suit began to move. The armor suit was not empty. The Joker had been hiding inside there the whole time, waiting to strike, and he did. He pulls off the helmet and he pulls off the gauntlet, and he looks at the lifeless body of Jay Wild, and he says aloud to himself,
Jay Wild, you thought I was not gonna get you tonight. And you idiotic policemen thought I was not gonna get to him tonight or get past your cordon, but I did. Thanks to this blowgun, Mr. Wild, you're dead man with a nice smile on your face. As for you simpleton policemen, you'll wake up in a couple of hours with a very bad headache. Now the Ronkers Ruby is mine.
Well, the Joker proceeds to take the Ronkers Ruby out of the safe, and he leaves a calling card, just a simple Joker card from a normal set of playing card decks. Well, the Joker walks off from the scene of the crime with the ruby in hand. He looks back at the dead Wild and the unconscious policeman, and he lets out a loud maniacal laughter. And walks off into the dark of the night. The next couple days was a media flurry, as the media were criticizing the police's lack of progress in finding and stopping the Joker, and how the police failed to protect two wealthy businessmen and their most valuable assets, their diamond and their ruby. Well, it was not a walk in the park either in the offices of Commissioner Jay Grogan, who was screaming and shouting at Gordon, "God damn it, Jim Gordon! Damn it, Jim! I want that Joker apprehended. I don't care what it takes. I don't give a damn what you do. I want that maniac apprehended before he kills another rich person or steals another valuable asset or even pulls off a museum heist or a bank robbery. You hear me, Jim? You hear me? I want him captured." Meanwhile, in the Batcave located beneath stately Wayne Manor, Well, Bruce Wayne and Dick Grayson were working hard for the last couple of days trying to crack the chemical that the Joker is using to killing these men and to see if they can come up with an antidote. First thing was first is to find out what this chemical is and what it's made of. Well, after days of analyzing the hair and skin and blood samples they collected from that grisly site at the docks, the Bat computer finally pieced together what that chemical was made of. Bruce looks at the display screen on the Bat computer and he says, "Eureka!" Dick runs up to him and says, "You cracked it, Bruce?" Bruce says, "Yes, the Bat computer cracked it. It's 3 chemicals, 3 very nasty chemicals." He goes on to explain to Dick the chemicals that make up Smilex is hydrogen cyanide, really bad one, a synthetic neurotoxin that I've never seen before, and another one. It's a nerve agent called DDID. I've heard of it, read something about it, but I don't think it's, well, all these 3 chemicals are not usually available to the general public, said Bruce to Dick. Then he goes on to explain to Dick further what each chemical ingredient does. He says to Dick, well, the hydrogen cyanide will just kill you with asphyxiation. You'll suffocate to death. While the DDID, it was developed during the Vietnam War. I don't know if it was ever used or experimented on, but this is not the same one that was developed by the American government. This one has been modified. All this one would do was just would make you laugh uncontrollably, while the neurotoxin would cause muscle constrictures, which would explain why the victims have those giant rictus grins after death. Dick's like, "Wow, that's heavy, Bruce." "Yes, it is, Dick," says Bruce. "Yes, it is. And plus, now that we've cracked the ingredients of Smilex, and now it gives me a chance to use my new chemical synthesizer and make an antidote to protect ourselves from this deadly chemical agent of the Joker's." Meanwhile, somebody else wanted to get the Joker. In a smoked out, dingy bar somewhere in Gotham City sits a group of men talking at a table. One of the men says to another man, "I can't believe it, man. This Joker fella's beating us to all our stuff that we're planning to rob. He steals the Claridge diamond, and then he steals the Ronker's ruby. He's muscling in on our racket." Well, another guy, a very big burly man, talks, and he says, "Yeah, I know, and I'm gonna get that guy. That Joker fella's as good as dead. I want you to spread word around that Brute Nelson wants a piece of the Joker, and he thinks the Joker is a spineless son of a bitch. You spread word around." "Right, Brute," said one of the other guys at the table. Soon word spread fast in the underworld that Brute Nelson wanted to get the Joker. But it didn't take very long for that news to reach the ears of a certain vigilante. In Wayne Manor, beneath in the Batcave, Bruce Wayne was suiting up in his suit, getting ready to go out for the night. Dick comes up to him and he says, "Hey, Bruce, you're heading out without telling me? I thought we were a partnership." Bruce looks at Dick and he says, "We are. I knew you were going to come down here anyways, so suit up and we're getting ready to go. I'll explain the plan on our way over to Brute Nelson's house." Meanwhile, later that night in Brute Nelson's house, Brute sits in his chair in his living room waiting for the Joker to come. He waits and waits and waits. The clock rings 10 o'clock. Brute was wondering if Joker was really spineless, but all of a sudden, he heard the smashing of a window in the living room, and coming through the broken window was none other than the Joker. The Joker looks at Brute Nelson and says,
"Talking about me, Brute? It's amazing that ugly head of yours has a brain to begin with."
Suddenly, the door to the living room opens, and several men come flooding into the living room. It was Brute's boys. The Joker was surprised and said,
Oh boy, a Mexican standoff. I wonder who's gonna come out on top.
but Joker, Brute, and his goons were not the only ones in the house. As Batman was creeping around in the upstairs floor, a scrape is made as his cape had scraped against the wall, alerting the men that there was somebody in the house. As they looked up the stairs, one of the men freaks and says, "Holy shit, it's the Batman! He's real! Shoot him!" Well, Batman literally had to leap into action as he leaps from the stairs, and like a human avalanche, he wallops the men down below. After taking those guys out, Batman says aloud to himself,
Rather unsteady on your feet, aren't you?
Suddenly, another gunman comes at Batman, but Batman reacted quickly and landed a jawbreaker on him. Then two more guys come at Batman. Batman quickly grabs a chair and swings it, and he says as the chair breaks over them, knocking them both out,
Here, guys, have a seat. It's big enough for two.
while Nelson's men were busy getting their butts handed to them by the Batman. The Joker settles the score with Brute. He takes out his gun and shoots Brute dead before Brute can pull out his gun and shoot the Joker. After shooting him dead, he climbs out the window, looks back at Brute's lifeless body, and says aloud,
You're not worth wasting Smilex on, you big oaf. I hope you rot in hell.
But the Joker was not going to get away. Like a juggernaut, Batman was running right after him into the dark of the night. Both of them running. Well, the Joker made it to his car. Batman saw the car at the distance. He was surprised. The car was a convertible, and it looked just like a clown car, with all the colorful colors of a clown car, even the stupid horn that the Joker was sounding as soon as he started the engine. Well, as the car began to speed off, the Batman lunges and hangs onto the car like a black cloud of vengeance. Hanging onto the sides of the car as the Joker tries to speed off. Well, the Batman finally grabs the Joker. The Joker turns around and screams,
You! I had enough of you. You die now.
He quickly pulls out a gun at Batman, but Batman disarms him as quick as the Joker pulled the gun out, and the two fought each other as Batman was hanging onto the Joker from the side of the car. He finally pulled the car door open and pulled the Joker out, and the two men fell and tumbled onto the old stone bridge that the car was driving over. Without the Joker behind the wheel, the car careened out of control and crashed through the bricks of the bridge and fell to the river below. While on the bridge, Batman and the Joker fought. But Batman underestimated the Joker. The Joker was no ordinary foe. He knew how to fight. And him and Batman fought each other. He eventually got the upper hand and beat the crap out of Batman. He eventually landed a blow to Batman, causing Batman to be knocked out. Then he grabbed Batman by the boots and flipped him over the bridge. As Batman was falling to the water, he was already in the process of beginning to lose consciousness. Then he hit the icy cold water below. The shock of the cold water snapped Batman back into consciousness from the haymaker that the Joker landed on him. He quickly surfaced to the surface of the river and got out of the river. He made his way back up to the bridge, but of course, the Joker was long gone. He says to himself,
I'll get you, Joker. If it's the last thing I'll do.
Then Batman pulls out his communicator out of his utility belt and he says,
Robin, bring the Batmobile over here. And bring it quickly. I'm in on my communication signal.
Well, Robin brings the Batmobile over to Batman's location. The canopy opens. Robin quickly moved over to the passenger seat. Batman struggled to get in the Batmobile. He was pretty beat up. He then says to Robin after he closes the canopy,
We gotta find the Joker. He's still around. He's on foot. We could catch up to him quickly.
But then Robin says to Batman,
God no, Batman. You're in bad shape. You barely can stand up. Let me put the Batmobile on autopilot and we're going back to the cave. You need to recover. I think you need some medicine. Or a doctor.
but Batman was stubborn and he screams at Robin.
Don't argue with me, Robin. We can still get him. We can still get him. Oh.
Right then and there, the Batman loses consciousness and slumps over to the steering wheel of the Batmobile. Robin quickly pulls him back from the steering wheel, puts the seatbelt on him so he could stay in place, and hits the emergency return button on the console of the Batmobile, and the Batmobile goes into autopilot to drive itself back to the Batcave. Well, the next night, the Joker had made his prediction that a judge by the name of Judge William Drake was going to be killed at 10 o'clock. Well, Batman had recovered from his wallop by the Joker, just a minor concussion, and some bruises, nothing that the 18-year-old wealthy playboy could bounce back from quickly. Anyways, the Joker was going to strike at Judge Drake's house. The police were there again, trying to protect the judge in vain. The judge was sitting at a table playing cards with none other than O'Hara. He was going to make right the wrongs that the Joker did. The Joker was not going to get this target. No way, no how. Well, as the two were sitting playing cards, it was 9 o'clock. As the clock chimed, the judge says, "Oh boy, 9 o'clock. One more hour to live." O'Hara says, "Judge, don't worry. You're going to live. I got men all over outside in the house and guarding all the entrances and exit. Nobody's getting past this cordon, not even the king of the beast himself." After those words of encouragement, the judge says, "You're right, O'Hara. I trust you. So let's see who wins," said the judge. The judge throws his cards on the table to see who's going to have the winning hand. Of course, the judge says, "I believe I won this game, O'Hara." O'Hara says, I think you did, sir. Here, Your Honor, here's my hand." Then he throws his cards down, but there was no clubs, no diamonds, no nothing. It was all jokers. Then O'Hara lifts his head up and looks at the shocked judge. He lets out a big smile, then he takes off his hat and pulls off the latex mask. It was the Joker in disguise. Then he says to the judge,
Good evening, Your Honor. I believe you have the honor tonight of dying.
Then the Joker pulls out a dart gun and shoots the judge with it. Then the judge begins to go through the effects of the Smilex. As that's happening, the Joker gets up and gets on the radio and says,
"All officers, quickly, come to the parlor. The Joker has got the judge."
Soon the Joker makes his exit as the police all came running into the parlor. Well, the Joker was not making a clean getaway as he was calmly walking out of the judge's house. He has been seen. It was Robin. Under orders of Batman, he was to keep an eye out and follow anybody who left the house. And it was plain and simple who left the house. It was the Joker. Well, Robin followed Joker all the way to his hideout at an old abandoned house. Robin says to himself,
Let me turn on my radio locator so Batman can track me down whenever he's done over there at the judge's house.
Then the 14-year-old boy wonder runs over to the abandoned house where the Joker was hiding out at. He goes in through the window. Even though he was as cautious can be, well, the Joker spotted him. The Joker had a crowbar. He sneaks up to the boy wonder and hits him over the head, knocking him out. After knocking him out cold, the Joker says,
Tisk, tisk, tisk. This is why crime is so out of control in the city, because of these costume hooligans running around late at night, breaking into homes. Oh, I'm gonna have to teach this little kid a lesson.
Meanwhile, in the front yard of the judge's house, the Batman was up in the tree listening to the police band. Well, the police band indicated that the judge was dead, and they found O'Hara in the wine cellar of the house, tied up and naked. The Joker had obviously attacked O'Hara, took his clothes, disguised himself to get close to the judge, and got the judge. But now, there was only one person who could have found the Joker. It was Robin. Batman pulls out his PDA and looks at the tracking device. Well, Robin remembered to put on his tracking device, and he was going to follow it. He began to follow it on foot to the abandoned house where the Joker was hiding out at. Meanwhile, in the abandoned house, the Joker was going to have a sick fun with Robin. He looks at Robin and says to the young boy Wonder,
What's with the serious look, kid? A kid your age should be happy, having fun. Well, I'm gonna change that. I'm gonna put a smile on that face.
as the Joker had come closer to Robin with a big knife, ready to give him a Glasgow smile. Suddenly, Batman crashes through the window. Then, with lightning speed, Batman throws a punch at the Joker and quickly disarms the Joker. He picks up the Joker and flings him across the room. Joker falls and lands on his workbench full of chemicals. As he lands, the workbench tips over along with him. Soon, the Bunsen burner, which was still burning, ignited all the chemicals on the ground, quickly turning the entire house into a raging inferno. Batman runs over to Robin, pulls out his batarang, and cuts the rope, freeing Robin. And soon, the dynamic duo jump out the window seconds before the house blows up right behind them. As soon as the two heroes escape from the burning house that blew up, they quickly proceeded to chase Joker on foot as Joker was running from them. Well, the foot chase led to a building, a very nice building. It was a luxury high-rise. Well, the Joker went up the construction next door and jumped over to the roof of the luxury high-rise and landed on the penthouse balcony of Otto Drexel, a wealthy man who owned the famous Cleopatra necklace. Joker's plan was to hide in the Drexel penthouse, kill Drexel, and take the necklace. Well, as he tried to break into the window of the Drexel penthouse, suddenly Batman was there, and he says to the Joker,
When will you learn? That crime doesn't pay, you sorry excuse of a clown.
Joker lets out a shrill scream and says,
Ah! It's you. When will you die?
The Joker proceeds to pull out his gun and shoot at Batman. But the Batman's armor protected him. Joker freaks out and runs. He leaps back over to the building construction next door. But he has another surprise waiting for him. Robin. Robin was there, and Robin says to the Joker,
Hey there, Joker. Remember me? You and your unfunny jokes? This is for hitting me over the head, you asshole.
Then Robin proceeded to wallop on the Joker. Robin beat the crap out of the Joker, who didn't expect that this kid was going to be strong enough to take him on. Then Robin kicked the Joker right off the edge of the construction. Well, as it appears that the Joker was falling to his doom, as he was falling past the penthouse balustrade, suddenly a hand grabs him and pulls him right out from certain death. It was the hands of the Batman. Then Batman proceeded to lay one heck of a haymaker on the Joker, knocking him out cold completely. It was over. The Joker was defeated. He was left tied to a fire hydrant, bloodied and broken. Lieutenant Gordon was the one that picked him up and took him to the police station, where he was booked and awaiting in a holding cell for his trip to Arkham Asylum. As he sat in wait, he looked at the jail bars that held him in, and he says aloud to himself,
Jail and a mental institution won't hold me. I'll be back. The Joker always escapes. Like and subscribe. The end.